Okay, subheading number 6, movers and shapers. Number 1, activation energy. Activation energy is the spark that ignites the flame. The kindling cannot become a fire without the activation energy. Think in social situations between a group of people, there is often tinder or kindling that is saturating the ground. Someone accidentally lets slip a story of someone else's infidelity. The fire ignites. Think about when Jordan Peterson dismantled Kathy Newman in Channel 4's Dishonest interview. The racist, sexist Jordan Peterson narrative provided the kindling soaking the floor. All it took was the Jordan Peterson spark, the activation energy, to dismantle the whole false narrative which caused the flame of his huge popularity boost. Activation energy is assigning a name to something abstract and extremely obvious. But I do like it as a concept to identify incentive. It works extremely well to identify incentive. Number 2, skin in the game. Yogi is joining us full time now because I've run out of props. So skin in the game is the ultimate BS detector. The concept of skin in the game is broadly focused on individual and group accountability. There should be an accountable symmetry of upside and downside to an individual for every action taken. An example of skin in the game is putting your money where your mouth is. You only recommend positions you yourself have a stake in. When you are right, you receive the social and the financial upside, and when you are wrong, you lose everywhere. An example of having no skin in the game, which is just to say having accountability for your actions, being accountable for the decisions, the posturing, the signaling, everything that you own, being accountable for your risk. So an example of having no skin in the game is the transactions that were made to cause the 2008 GFC. The financial managers who sold junk loans, oh, she moved it. Like, come here. The financial managers who sold junk loans and contributed majorly to the GFC. They privatized the gains and socialized the losses. Rather than them repaying for all the damage they caused, the taxpayer bailed them out. They were not accountable for their decisions, and they had no skin in the game. Skin in the game is a euphemism for accountability, and similar to activation energy, similar to many of the concepts, they are inherently understood by everyone. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, we all know what this means. They are phrases taken from 4000 BC or something, Babylonian Mesopotamia. It was on Hammurabi's law, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. These were written on the statute. We inherently understand skin in the game. It's been a fundamental underwriting of our social contract since the very beginning. Skin in the game is brilliantly expanded on by Nassim Taleb in his book, which is of the same title, and I made a video about this concept, which you will see up around here. And of course, for Yogi, like, subscribe, 5 stars, comment. Number 3, the Streetlight Effect. We've got a beautiful little glass globe right here. Okay, so the Streetlight Effect manifests influence at scale. People source information from the least resistant path. More news is consumed via the headlines than by the body of an article. Less than 2% of Google searches make it past the first page. This is the Streetlight Effect. At scale, this can skew an entire field or propagate fake news. For only the skewed streetlight is visible rather than the accuracy of the whole road. Imagine if you're walking down a road at night and the streetlight only is working over some ugly part of the road. There's a pothole, I don't know, some blood, a trash can tipped over. Your impression of the road from the streetlight visibility is such that it's a very ugly road. But if you were there in the day, you would realize that that's the only ugly part on the entire street. It's actually a beautiful road. By only reading a clickbait title, a clickbait headline, and by passing on just headline information and never understanding the body that justifies a headline, you never understand the nuance of a topic and your opinion is heavily skewed, which only further propagates down the line as clickbait snowballs. So the Streetlight Effect is very applicable in the social realm at showing how we will only understand a very small amount of a topic, but then speak about and share that knowledge as if we knew the entire road. The Streetlight Effect is propagated so much more and so much more heavily and quickly through our mass consumption of information and media. You're scrolling through Instagram, you're scrolling through Twitter, you're scrolling through Facebook, your mates are sending you things, you're hearing things, maybe you've got the news on, you've got podcasts happening all the time. There's so much information, but how often do you really understand or even get exposed to more than just the street light that it's showing you. Number 4, the Tocqueville Paradox. The Tocqueville Paradox partly explains Steven Pinker's controversy. The paradox explains how, as living standards for a particular community rise, so rise the community's expectations. Standards will then rise again until a point where standards cannot meet expectations. It is at this point society breaks down and populism festers. So, just think about the recent history. From the 1900s, standard of living is just ticking away up and up and up and up. But at each additional uptick, there was a lot of complaints about the poor standards of living that people were living in, although it was considerably better than in the past. Even now, people complain about the standards of living. It's considerably better than the past. The paradox explains how, as living standards rise, so do expectations. So, why does this explain some of Steven Pinker's controversy? He's best known as the arbiter for just how good things are. And whether that's true or not is not so much important, but people insist till the cows come home just how wrong he is. The arguments stem in majority from shaky grounds of his statistical interpretations. However, I would argue that in addition, a lot of his criticism is sourced by the Tocqueville Paradox because people's expectations have risen beyond our living standards. So people don't like it when he tells them just how good things are because they expect them to be better. Number 5, Cogs in the Machine. And I brought Donald back because this is the final one. Very important. I want to emphasize the greatest cricketer alive, who ever lived. Cogs in the Machine. This draws upon the flywheel concept coined by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. Every additional cog you add to your machine complements every other cog. So each additional cog increases your output. Think about the first cog in your machine and how much energy it needs to turn the wheel. You're here, you're trying to push this big cog. On the other side, energy is being created. But as you push this one cog, it's not a very efficient use of energy. What happens when you put in another cog? All of a sudden you're pushing and it's now turning this other wheel and now you're producing more energy on the other side. So your flywheel or cogs in the machine can apply to so much of life. So for me, my blog complements the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel complements the blog. If I were to ever write a book, I would have 2 different platforms complementing each other to spread the word of the book. Now that book can sell further than it would otherwise. And now through the new consumers of the book, they might find the YouTube channel or the blog. And then so the cogs complement each other, further propagating the feedback loop. And then I can add another cog. I can start a podcast, add an additional a cog. 4 cogs pushing at this end. Now there's way more energy being consumed at the other end. It's just another way of imagining the flywheel, which is a very popular concept by Jim Collins. I think of Tim Ferriss when I think of the flywheel. The man leveraged his network at every single point to just add another top quality, high class, flawless cog in the wheel. So this also complements the Matthew principle a little bit. Success breeds success. It takes a lot of effort to add each additional cog to the wheel, but the energy is repaid quickly, and then you're living purely on upside. Okay, and that was the final concept. Thank you so much for watching the video. This was actually a shorter clip taken out of a much longer video, which you'll be able to find on my channel, where there's 6 subheadings in total. And in total 31 concepts. So if you enjoyed this, if you managed to make it to the end, first of all, you're a ledge. Cheers. You know, if you liked one of the props, please leave it as a comment. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Leave 5 stars. And have a look at the other videos as well, because there might be something interesting in there for you. I'm going to be making more content, so subscribing is probably the most important one. Click the bell as well. Who knows? Let's hack the YouTube algorithm. Just go nuts, spam my stuff. Thank you so much for watching.